78.6% of chancellors and presidents, 78.6% of directors, athletic directors, 83% of faculty, athletic representatives, 80% of conference commissioners were white. Let me read that again. 78.6, 78.6, 83.6, and 80.0 of conference commissioners were white.
And I want you to say, go back and say, who are they? The president, the
78.6% of chancellors and presidents are white. 78.6% of athletic directors are white. 83.6% of faculty athletic representatives are white, and 80% of conference commissioners were white in 2022.
That's sad. And let me see what I read that I sent to you guys.
Let me read a few other things because I think this is important too. I don't think one issue can be addressed without the other. 60.3% of chancellors and presidents are men, or white men. 67.9% of athletic directors are white men. 50% of faculty athletic representatives are white men, and 70% of conference commissioners are white men.
And this
is what I'll say about this. This is the one that kind of surprises me. That 50% of faculty athletic representatives are white men. That means that Hispanics, women, and blacks have to all divide the other half of that 50%.
That's right. That's right.
No, because you understand, they didn't say 50% of faculty and staff were men. They said 50% of faculty and staff were white men.
Right.
So that means women, Hispanic, Asians, females, blacks, we all have to divide the other 50% up amongst us. And we still wouldn't outnumber or even, be equal to, I guess we would be equal to the percentage of white men. But then how many of those positions are white men?
Here's the thing. I've always been told you can't know where you're going unless you know your history. We do a report card. I took one of this out of the article from Lipchick. He been doing this for so many years. We do a report card on all the major professional leagues and college sports. Has the worst report card. The report card is on racial discrimination, on who's in place and who's running. He said, as somebody who has worked in an institution of higher education for 52 years, it's particularly disappointing to me that college sports has the worst record than everybody we cover. And we can get control of that. If I don't know, I got an idea on how we could do it. We got to have the people in place to push this up to Washington, D.C. to say, if this don't change, we're going to mess with some of your money. Because black kids going to continue to go to white schools, which, I would too. I mean, it's better facilities than everything else. What do we do? Look, Coach, are we getting anybody that's jumping in on this out there? I think it has to come down to just like they did the APR, just like they doing the NIL, just like they doing anything else to make things even. They can do that on the college level of making sure that more minorities are hired, especially at these big schools.
Hey, Coach, I want to take a minute to invite everyone who would like to call to go ahead and call. You can give us a call at 518-351-9464. If you have a comment on the topic that we're discussing now, or even you would like to comment on a previous topic that we were discussing leading up to this one. But
I'm doing a report now on HBCU non-revenue sports. What is the ratio between coaches, white coaches, and coaches of color on the revenue sport? Because I mean, how's it at Florida A&M?
So we have a white baseball coach. I don't know what our golf coach is, but I think that's the only coach that just comes to mind right now. That we've had one coach that's a Caucasian. That's our baseball coach. I think he came from Florida State.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do a little. I'm gonna pull up some stuff and I'm gonna see, because that point was brought to me that shit, man. You start looking at the number of non-revenue sports. Shit, they starting to take over them jobs. So how do we get them jobs? You know what I mean? How do we get passed over?
Well, let's look at this, guys, because this is an interesting point I want to bring up. Because this is let me get back to it, because it was quite interesting. Let me scroll down. Okay, here it is. And this is the quote from the article itself. It says, "It's hard to believe that in 2022, 51 years after the passage of Title IX, for example, that only 40% of women's teams across all three divisions are coached by women. 50% of assistant coaches of women's teams are women all of these years later." So what they're saying is the head coaches, only 40% of them women. And then when you talk about assistant coaches, only 50% of them are women.
Wow.
What do you guys think about that, Coach?
Wow. You know, man, it's tough on both areas, on women and on black people. Let me say that. It's tough on both. You know what I mean? I just feel in the past years that we've been pushed to the bottom. They've been focusing on transgender, gender, and women, minority women, and women, period. And then it's us at the bottom. And when I'm saying us, I'm just saying black people. Men, women, it don't matter. I mean, now that they got rid of affirmative action, like we bringing up some stuff like I guarantee you that it's some people that don't know these numbers, right? Some of us thinking and walking through, and I'm in the state of Arizona. So most of the blacks down here have grown up as minorities, but it's been acceptable, so they don't have to go through what we go through over in the South. In the South, there's big black communities, and then there's white communities. Out here in Arizona is a lot different. So my thing is what do you do? What do we do? How can we make that change besides giving people information? And I guarantee you the average person don't know that, Campbell. They don't know that. Albany State got a white coach. He came there and won, and then he left. They don't know that. Now we beginning to get white athletic directors. Who they gonna hire?
What I'll say, and this is just my opinion, and you got to understand that I'm outside the HBCU family, so my comments are just based on my.
Hey, Campbell, tell him to be careful.
Based on my perspective.
He's gotten in so much trouble. I'm just waiting. I get texts about him every time he gets on.
My point in this is this. I think personally, discrimination of any kind is wrong. Discrimination of any kind is wrong. So if you're talking about in the HBCU sphere, and white men and women want to offer up their talents and abilities inside of the HBCU ecosystem, right? And they are qualified right, to hold whatever position, from president all the way down to janitor, and they're qualified, then they should be considered for that particular job. Period. That's why I'll say they should not be discriminated against because of their color. Now, when you talk about a person getting a job or being hired for a job, there's many more considerations when you talk about when you're talking about, especially when you're talking about high level executive positions. There's fit, you know what I mean? There's competency. There's a lot of different things that you have to consider. But I don't think one of those things you should consider is the color over the fit. If the fit's not good, I understand. But if the fit is good, I think the color should not matter. The color should not matter.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Can you please hold white people to that same standard you want to hold me to?
Absolutely.
So see, this is where the problem comes in, that Rocky. While that sounds great, and in a perfect world, but white people are never held to that standard that you want me as an HBCU to be held against. So what I will say, and this is what, Coach, I'm going to use women's college basketball, which is on the forefront, right? I want you to think about, I'm a big women's college basketball fan. And I'll think about Pat Summitt, who's a white woman, but I'm going to use her as an example. The majority of the great programs that she went against were coached by white men. She was the only female in the SEC at one time. Auburn, Joe Champion, Andy Landers at Georgia, Van Chancellor at Ole Miss. All these people that had these great women's programs were coached by white men. Right. So now what you see, you're finally starting to see black women to even get these opportunities. Which are 30 years later, just now getting, and they're the one playing the game. They all graduated college. They all know the game, and they're just now, you can look at the SEC right now. And look how many female black coaches that you got. So again, my point of it is, while you want me to hold up to that standard, is the people that are in the power structure, they never get held to that standard. Because I'm going to go back to this point again. People owe us $13 billion. Do you think if LSU, University of Texas, Texas A&M, University of Florida was owed $13 million, they wouldn't get their money?
Hey, I'm laughing at Israel kid. She said, "Rocky, you in a whole nother space." So you can't. So again, we say this, but again, white people constantly do this. So again, I can show you nepotism at all these coaching hires in the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten,
in the NFL, Coach.
In the NFL. So again, when you have a situation where you look at, again, the coaches that are qualified on the staff, they get passed over. They get passed over.
You know,
on the actual staff.
I don't want to get into the NFL, man, but when I look at the NFL and I see some of them black coaches on the sideline, man, and they just then they hire these young, here all back white guys as the coordinator, man, and all they've been on plate is madden their whole damn life, or they caught some balls from Jerry Rice as a kid growing all the way up, and they moving right into that positions. Well, that just kills me. But sometimes when you get the opportunity, and when the opportunity in the production or the product meets, it's success. It ain't necessarily you. It's just that you in the right spot. You have all these guys that play professional football. Man, I mean, great. All pros, Hall of Famers. And I know everybody ain't a coach. We'd be the first one on here to say, because you played the game, don't make you a coach. But damn it, there's some guys out there that can coach some football that deserve head jobs and haven't even got a chance. We brother can hire. Now, my man that used to be the coordinator at the Kansas City Chiefs left, went to another. Now he over at UCLA. Bieniemy. Yeah. It's, what they, and I'm sad to say it. I'm going to say it on my show because I can say it on my show. Bro, I'm beginning to think, man, what is wrong with this dude? They won't choosing as a head coach, is something wrong with it? What's wrong to do? They got me thinking something wrong with this cat. But all your other white guys with the hair slicked back and they coordinating, they running the Madden offense, you know, they high flying. But Benjamin, how many Super Bowls he been in? 2, 3?
He been in 3, and he won 2.
3 Super Bowls. He can't get a job. Something wrong.
Well, Coach, this is what I've always said, Coach, and this is just keeping it real. In my lifetime, my 54 years of living, the rules have always been different for black men and women when it comes to obtaining jobs, not only in corporate America, but also in sports. The rules are different, right? And I look forward to a day, Mr. Campbell and Coach Cole, where the rules aren't different, where we can exist in the same spaces as white people and play by those exact same rules. And I don't think we get there by having a system that discriminates against white people, just like they have a system that discriminates against black people.
But Rocky, let me ask you a question. Okay. So I'm going to use this again, and Coach is going to understand this. Coach, how many times, and you've coached on white staffs and black staffs, how many times have you heard the white power structure say, I'm just comfortable with that guy. He reminds me of me. We don't look like him. We're not going to, because let me see, if we're going to have this conversation, let's have a real conversation. My mother worked at HR for 40 years. I've hired people. I've been around people. And when I hear a white person say, I feel comfortable with somebody, you know what that means? He can tell jokes that he's not going to tell in front of me and you. He's going to say things because they feel comfortable. So they hire a Coach Cole. You know what they got to do? They got to act a little bit different. Because do not believe that is what they are when they're around Coach Cole. Because when they become closed doors, and we've seen this many times, they act a certain way, they talk a certain way. So again, Rocky, when you say that to me, then all I say back is this: then let them see me for who I am. They never see me for who I am. So if I'm a coach at Jackson State and the head coach, and I see a young brother that has talent, you know what? I'm going to incubate him and hire him. I'm at FAMU because they do the same thing all the time. And the only way for us to get coaches to be great, somebody has to take a chance on us. I'm just going to be honest with you. Every time is usually somebody has taken a chance that sees something in us. Because like Coach said, you look at all these offensive coordinators. Now, you've had guys that have been in the NFL that's black that have had all the same accolades. But you know what? He just makes me feel, I see something in him. I've heard it a billion times. What do you see in him? You see yourself. That's what you see. And until we're honest about that conversation and know that makes a difference when you're sitting down across and interviewing, and also know your bias is there. Well, if I say something, I don't want Steve to be offended. Well, if you're so worried about that, you're not going to give me a chance anyway. So I'm telling you, that has a lot to do with a lot of this. So while, yes, I would want the FAMU to hire the best coach, of course, in the perfect world. But I'm going to tell you, if all things are even, then I want you to hire that black coach, female or male, give them an opportunity to show what they're worth. And you will be shocked, as we see all the time, the ability that they have because they got the opportunity.
25 teams in the nation that gets notified. So what about the other 100 schools that have losing records? Let me say, I understand what Rocky is saying because he's not an HBCU guy. He didn't feel as he's a successful man as well. But the thing of it is I'm with him as far as saying I wish things were equal. But even the man says, I've been doing this for 52 years of studying this racial imbalance. And it ain't changed not one. It ain't changing fast enough. So then what do you do? Do you keep on raising your dress up? Or do you say, man, this ain't working out? And I need to take care. We need to start taking care of our own. Because They not playing fair. They not opening the gate. They opening in the back gate, but they're not opening in the front gate. I'm tired of walking through the back gate.
Hey,
and if we have our own gate, why are we continuing to let them walk in? Let them walk in the back gate. I just feel that way.
I want to apologize to our last couple callers. We were having a technical difficulty. So, caller, if you want to jump on, only thing you have to do is call back, and I'll put you right on. But again, Coach Campbell, Mr. Campbell and Coach Cole, I know the history of this country very well. I know the deep-rooted history in a lot of different industries. I've been in IT for almost 30 years. I remember many days I was the only black guy and wanted and searched high and low for qualified black men and women to occupy positions that were available in organizations that I was a part of. So I understand how important it is, how important diversity is. I understand how fleeting those opportunities can be sometimes when you have a systemic or cultural divide that openly discriminates against black people, right? But what I'm saying on the HBCU side, I'm just talking about that. I don't know that it benefits the overall. And someone said, you said I'm wishing for utopia. No, I'm not wishing for utopia. I'm wishing for a level of fairness, right, that benefits black men and women, but also awards opportunities to qualify white men and women. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying when you get a guy whose application and he happens to be white, that you don't toss it in the trash, that you at least talk to the guy, you interview the guy and see if he fits in your organization. And vice versa. I'll say this. There's enough impressive black men and women as coaches and as executives that if they would just give those guys a shot to come in and interview and present themselves, then there would be a change in this. I don't know how much of a change would be because you still have to convince the decision maker to pull the trigger. But in my opinion, they're not looking at enough black men and women to fill these positions of ADs and directors, because they often, what do they do, Mr. Campbell? They often recycle people who've had positions elsewhere into their positions. In my opinion, that's how they justify keeping it lily white, because they just keep hiring people who have experience doing the job.
That's what happens. But I want to get Coach Cole to pick. I want to talk about the coaches in the SWAC, right? So you got Coach T.C. Taylor, up and coming coach, looks like he's going to be a great coach. You got Coach Eddie Robinson at Alabama State. You got Coach McDowell. So here's the thing. What are we doing to augment and support them by fundraising, by support, where they can build out their staffs, where they can hire coaches and build them up? Because see, this is the thing about it. If you got a great coach like T.C. Taylor, and I'm using people that have won games, because Coach Simmons is gone now. So I'm talking about coaches that have won games in the SWAC. What are we doing? Because if you got Coach T.C. Taylor, who's going to be leading Jackson, you know the best thing that can help him is we support him where he can have a staff that he can pay people to bring in other additional coaches, where he can pay a guy a great wage. Same thing at FAMU, same thing at Alabama State. We've got coaches that can train other coaches. But if we don't give them the money to hire competent coaches, then guess what? We're still back in this cycle. So that's another thing, too, that we got to do.
Let me ask you this. How come I've been around the SWAC 40 years, right? How come not one SWAC coach lead and win a championship 2 or 3 years like W.C. Gordon? I don't know if Eddie, I heard Eddie had got a couple chances to go to the Rams, but never a big school. Pete Richardson, L.C. Cole, Rob Broadway, Jones, Anthony Jones. How come you win a SWAC, you don't get no other job? But if you win the Ohio Valley Conference, you jump to someone small A. Think about that question for a minute. Here's my thing Rocky, and I agree with you totally. I mean, you're right. I mean, shit should be fair, but it ain't. We got poor people in America. They invented welfare. Okay, we had a problem about hiring black. They invented affirmative action. Okay, we understand that this thing been going on for 52 years. I'm saying that they not, as long as we leave it in their hands, you know, in these athletic directors' hands and these white men hands, it ain't gonna change. It ain't gonna change. It's got to go up the ladder. It's got to go up the ladder. And you know, at one time we asked, well, athletes should go to HBCU. Damn, we ain't gonna do that, coach. So it's got to be administrative. I remember, Rocky, we had the BCA, you know, and they named the top 20 black coaches. Man, them dudes, this was back in the 80s. Them dudes, they gave those dudes jobs, assistant jobs, Campbell somewhere. Man, I ain't hear from them dudes no more.
You ain't hear from them anymore.
There ain't nothing changed. Now they got this other black organization. Man, they get them black dudes, them assistant jobs. Man, you don't hear about it no more. We selling ourselves out. It's just like, it ain't no different than slavery. You know, they got that guy out in the cotton field, and when he sees somebody about to run, he run and tell the house about them about to sneak out. We ain't strong enough to do it on our own. It's gotta go to Washington, I think. It's gotta be some type of accountability and NCAA from the NCAA. They put shit on everything else. They can put stuff on these hard practices, just like in the NFL. The Rooney Rule. Remember the Rooney Rule when they came out and said you gotta interview a black guy. That's what we need. We need that in NCAA.
So
win the swag, the national championship, the swag or something, he should be able to get an interview somewhere.
So would you agree with some type of mandate on the 10 official coaching positions, or 12? Is it 10 or 12, coach, on a D1 staff? It's 10, right?
Yeah, 10. It's 10 coaches on the staff.
Okay. If for the 10 coaches that are labeled to recruit, that are able to recruit off campus, if there was a mandate that at least 3 of those coaches, say 4 of those coaches, had to be either black or female, would you agree with that?
It's got to be more. It's always been 2. It's always been 2. It's 1 on offense and 1 on defense. 3, we ain't making no progress.
Well, coach, the reason why I say that is because by this report, now this is all 3 schools, this is all 3 divisions. It says only 47% in D1 football at the FBS level. 44.7% of student athletes were black or African American. 38.6% were white. So what's the other 40%?
Well, let me say this.
What's the other 20%, coach? So you know a lot of Asian players, or
certainly we ain't talking about revenue sports.
No. This is no. We're talking about in D1 football. Now, this is what's confusing. 44.
Well, no. Wait. See, don't understand what D1 football, that goes out to those schools out in the sticks where there's a whole bunch, you know what I'm saying? See, don't get it. So, because that's where the number gets skewed, because now you're adding schools that don't have a lot. So, like North Dakota or South Dakota.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But see, I tell you what, look at the number in the SEC. And then tell me what the percentage of black players are in the SEC. That is a dramatic skew difference to 70% like the NFL. Okay?
Yeah, no, I like what Syntech Sports TV said. What powerful system has ever changed voluntarily?
None.
Man, that's a good statement. They ain't gonna do it unless you make them. And I think in college sports, we can make a change. It's changed everything else, but we got to go to Washington with it. If we ain't going to Washington with it and start pulling back some of this federal money, because Rocky, like you said earlier, it's even worse in the lower division, like Division 2 or 3. And it ain't, it's worse there. You go, I coached down there. I coached in the KCAC, Campbell, up in Kansas, Division 2. Didn't nobody look like me.
Nobody
looked like me down there. And my head coach happened to be a black guy. And nobody looked like us, coach. Not the AD, not the trainer, not the secretary, nobody. And it's something that we got to do that. We got to do it, man. That's the only way it's going to change.
So just like Title IX has participation
mandates. Boy, you're talking, Rodney. That's why I love you.
Just because Title IX has participation mandates that say that a certain percentage of your overall non-revenue athletic programs have to be comprised of women, right?
We need it. You
would be okay with a situation where if your team is 60% black, then 6 out of your 10 coaches should be represented by that ethnicity.
I wouldn't go that far. Damn what the players look like. I'm talking about economics. That we need to have some of those positions so we can
money they make. How many positions?
Man, that's a good.
How many positions, Coach? How many positions, Mr. Campbell?
Well, see, this is where it comes back. See, because what I would say is, what's the true reflection? Look at the University of Alabama football team. They're literally their whole 22, other than 2 or 3 kids, are all black. Okay,
all of them are 2 deep black.
So the whole defense is black. So can I have so I'm gonna play that game with you. Then why can't the whole defensive staff be black? See, they don't want to do that. Because if I'm representative to that point, and this is what Coach is saying, you're never going to get the balance that's true there because we over-index. It's the same thing with basketball.
And let me say that article what I sent to you guys today, it'll come out. Nothing happens. Nobody makes no stir. No black folks, no black people that's in power positions because we're so happy. Because even the athletic directors don't look like us.
So how about
we got all these black athletic directors in the SWAC? Name an athletic director, a black athletic director from the SWAC has took over some Division 1A job. Do y'all know any? I don't know none. And so how is an athletic director in the HBCU, you can turn around and hire a black coach, or turn around and let a head coach hire all white staff?
Well,
how can you sit there and let that happen and feel good about it?
Well, I can say this. I believe the chairman of the NCAA tournament is from the SWAC.
For the basketball tournament.
Oh, come on. You talking about Charles McCullum?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. Now, what's that been 2 years in a row, ain't it?
Yeah, I think they have run a 2 or 3 year.
He was there last year. Yeah, he was there last year. Yeah, which is good. Look. I'm all for it.
Well, let me
go ahead.
Well, let me say this. How about this? I'm just going off the dome here, so correct me if I'm wrong. So my deal would be something like this. If I had to do it, I would incentivize schools this way. You could have 10 coaches, mandate at least 2 of those coaches be minorities, right? However, you could have 12 coaches if you hired 2 additional coaches for an allotment of 12. That way you could have 4 minority coaches. You understand what I'm saying? If it makes sense, you could have 10 coaches.
I knowing the business, Rocky, and been around in the business for now 50 years, almost 50 years, it's got to be 4. It's been 2 for the longest.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you go from 10 coaches.
Hey, look, I don't care if they can only hire 6. Make 4 of them black.
Well, Rocky, here's the thing. Well, let's talk about it. So now what you're saying, and what the argument why it won't work legally is you're talking about a quota.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's going to be struck down. That's never going to be ever enacted because we're already fighting.
Title IX is a quota.
No, what Title IX is no, it's not a quota. Title IX isn't saying, look, you didn't have any, and women are just equal to men. So whatever you give the men, you got to give the women. That's really basically what Title IX says. Right. You got to give the same amount to the women that you give the men.
But some people, the same opportunities.
The same opportunity.
In non-revenue sports.
Well, if basketball is a revenue sport for women, if you want to call it a revenue sport.
No,
but you guys said that they don't have football. So they don't have, so they have to add those sports because they don't have football.
So what I'm saying is basketball and football don't count. Men's basketball, men's football don't count. Let's set them aside.
Yes, it does.
Not for Title IX.
In Title IX.
No. For Title IX, it's only
the reason why is because then you gotta put in more women's sports to balance it out.
Exactly.
Football is so large that now we gotta because say some schools you got more women's sports than men because if they got football. So it's Title IX is making sure that women have the same opportunities as men. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? I mean, that makes sense.
But I thought there was an exclusion for men's basketball.
No. That's why you see it where they have to add a women's soccer team to balance it out. No, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna read this real quick because I don't want people to misunderstand this. If the school offers athletic participation opportunities, the number of individual athlete participation slots, not number of teams, proportional to the number of males and females in the general student body, the school must meet the participation standard. Right. That's what that means.
Right. So all of it counts, Rob. Of course, football is big, then it's track. So
and under Title IX, no sport exclusion or exception. So football is included under the law.
Right.
Individual participation opportunities, numbers of athletes participate around the number of sports, and all men's sports and women's sports are counted to determine whether the school meets a Title IX participation standard.
So the 11.7 is for all non-revenue sports. The 11.7 scholarships.
Yeah.
That's for all. That's for even if it's baseball, even if it's rowing, even if it's whatever. Those teams only get 11.7 scholarships. That's what I'm talking about.
Here's what some people go wrong at, especially these women's sports, thinking that they should be getting paid as much as men. It never said about the money. It never said about being paid. It's about the opportunities, because as you know, there's more people that come watch men's sports than women's sports. So sometimes people get off course with Title IX on that case, and they don't win those cases. They go to court. Oh, well, he made $250,000, and you only paying me $150,000. Where he got 20,000 fans, and you got 1,000. So it's about the product. It ain't about whether it's a woman or a man. Doing the coaching. So,
as a courtesy in the description of this particular live, there's 2 links to 2 reports about diversity and equity and inclusion related to college athletics. I suggest both of you, anybody who's interested in reading those stats, go down in the description and click those links. All the numbers we're referencing are in those. Links.
I'm sorry. And you guys, we sitting here talking about Title IX and this distress and all that. And they've done stuff for all that, except they've done anything for college athletics to put people of color, especially black men, in these roles, giving us these opportunities. They've done this and that in women's sports and Title IX. That ain't never been the issue. The issue has been why, and on his face, why do you guys have a problem with hiring black men? So, period. Like you say, let's just tell the truth about it. Why do you guys have problems hiring black men? The problem is some black men have problems hiring black men. We don't look out for each other. We don't. And it ain't, and this ain't a them against us. This is a systematic issue that need to be recognized, and make sure that black men make sure that, look, guys, if they're hiring people that look like them, don't feel bad about hiring people that look like you.
You know what? You know what the crazy thing about this? We're talking about Title IX being the law of the land in 1972, right?
Right.
And I don't know what documentary I was watching, but some team in the ACC, SEC, didn't integrate until the mid-70s. And I'm trying to think of what school
is that football? That football? You know who put the first black guy on the team with SMU?
No, I'm talking in the SEC. This is the documentary I was talking about.
SMU was the last major college to put a black guy on the team. And Alabama was the first major. No, let me take that back.
No, Kentucky and Tennessee had black players before the Alabama. Right. Alabama didn't have a black player until 70, 71.
Right. USC and Paul Bear Bryant called my man out of USC and put together a game because Alabama was the last school in the SEC to get a black player. And when they played USC, Sam Bam Cunningham, I think he scored 4 touchdowns that night. And Bear Bryant smiled and told his alumni that we got to change. If I had some of those, this was his quote, if I had some of those, we would run through the conference. And that's what changed Alabama in the
So in this documentary, I believe Alabama had black players going back to the 50s, but they never played.
No, they couldn't even get in school, Rocky.
Okay,
you gotta listen. You gotta understand something. SEC schools until James Merritt and people like that didn't even get into the school until 63.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was no black person there. Period. In the SEC at school at all.
Period. None. Zero.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not. I gotta stand on that because I don't want people to. We're not gonna change history, okay? And we're not gonna change, and we're not gonna gloss over the SEC history.
I don't want us to get blinded with all this media and the cell phone and all this thing happening, and our young kids think that we've made it and we to the top. The 70s ain't too far away.
Absolutely. I was born in the 70s.
Wow. Okay.
So what I'm looking at is this says a guy named John Mitchell, and maybe he was born in 1951. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. Was the first black player in Alabama. But again, what I want to say is that this was integration going well into the mid 70s, right? Teams were still being integrated. And Title IX, they instituted a law that you could not discriminate any longer based on sex. They didn't make the same exclusion for race.
Well, okay, wait a minute. So no. You gotta understand something. See, now we're gonna have to do it. See, this is what happens when so Rocky, you gotta understand. So I don't want to get too far in this. This for all my young folks. Good. You need the Civil Rights Act. 1964, you need to Google that. That prevented discrimination. Okay, that happened in 64. So the vote right was 65. So the Civil Rights Act was in 1964. That outlawed all over the United States racial discrimination in 1964. Okay. Now, with that being said, the Southern schools still, but that's why you had James Meredith and people over in Alabama, and then the person at LSU, and those people when they had to have the National Guard to force them to go to school, okay, and stuff like that. So that's where that progression comes from. Because football did not get integrated until the late 60s. Early 70s. And I'm not talking about 20, 30 players. I'm talking about like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay? Be clear on that.
Yeah. and you know the what they call it, not the Divine Nine, but the kids that was going to Central High School in Arkansas.
Yeah, Little Rock. Yeah.
Yeah, in Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah. So I mean, it ain't been that far off. I'm just, we got to do something, man. You know, because this ain't even really about my kids. This is about my kids' kids or your kids' kids, right? These guys are making $4 and $5 and $6 and $1 million as assistant coach. Do you know what you could do with $1 million or $500,000 in 2 years as assistant coach? And we down at the HBCU still making 40 and 30 and sleeping under your desk and all that kind of stuff.
But coach, if they don't want to fund you,
turn out a national championship, and the best job that your head coach can get is a running back coaching job.
But coach, this goes back,
huh?
But this goes back to the initial discussion that we've had, and it goes back to these legislatures not properly funding these schools. We know we're owed billions of dollars that have been stolen. You didn't have to give it to me. Because first of all, this is not stuff that was allocated. This was legally money that you stole from us. Stolen. Facts. And they sent a letter saying, hey, can you just give those black folks their money back? And they still looking at us and laughing. Like, no, we're not going to give them their money. Even though legally they stole it, it's not even in the dispute. So what do we do when, again, somebody has stolen $1 billion for Southern, $2 billion for FAMU, $2 billion for North Carolina A&T? You give those people that money, you can have all the coaches you want. You can have all the facilities that you want. That is a lot of money. So again, when we sit back here and not understand the politics that affects our sports, because see, the politics doesn't affect the sports in the ACC, Big 10, Big 12. Politics doesn't affect their sports. They pass laws to help their sports.
Let me say this too, and I got to get on our black people, Rocky. In the 60s, our black schools, when they did play white schools, they beat the hell out of them. But what happened was, what black people did was not jump on board with athletics. Athletics has been the bicycle for black people since 1936 when Jesse Owens won the damn 1936 Olympics. And when he came back home, he still had to go in the back door to a place that was giving him an award. We didn't jump on board. White folks seen it and discovered it and started saying, well, damn, this is the way. What we've been doing and I was born in the 60s, in the 70s, we always told each other, don't be a dumb jock. Be smart. Education is the way to go. And that's true. But administration is also the way to go. And we did not deal up.
All right, I'm gonna have you on in a little bit. All right. Yeah, I hear you.
Like in Texas.
Do I need to shut anything off when I?
Are we ready? Are y'all hearing me?
If you listen to us in the background, yeah.
Oh, right, we can hear you, Rocky. We can hear you.
Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but Rocky's talking to a caller. Sounds like coach.
The Orange Blossom City Classic sold out. The Space City Classic, Grambling and Southern sold out. Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Magic City got sold out. This was 30 years ago. Sellouts, big money, making money. We never had a financial or administrative way to put the money back into the athletic program and ride it out. We as black folks wanted to sell it out. Oh, we're smart. We're intelligent. So we downplayed athletics. Do you know that even today, we still hadn't took the handlebars of athletics and took money to put over there, put in the athletics to build big stadiums, the nice stadiums for our people. We still ain't done it. And of course, like you said earlier, we short $2 billion. We ain't fought for it. So yeah, if you let somebody mistreat you, they gonna mistreat you. And we've mistreated ourselves, and we missed a bright opportunity in the 70s and the early 80s to start putting money into athletics, and we didn't do it, and they did it, and now we behind the 8 ball.
Hey, Steve and Coach Cole, we have a caller on the line. Caller, give us your name and where you're calling from. What do you have for Coach? Go ahead.
I got something for all three of y'all, especially Coach. My name is Johnnie, and I'm from North Carolina Central. I love listening to you guys talk. And a lot of times I call in a clown and cut up like everybody else. But what y'all were talking to tonight, man, it really hurts me because I spent 30-something years in law enforcement. And I know exactly what y'all talking about the same discrimination. I didn't realize coaches had it so bad until I started paying attention this year. And Coach Cole, what I want to say is the model has been set before. We got to play the same play again. We got to economically boycott. And what I mean by that, and then we got to vote, register to vote, register to vote, and vote some more until we can get some politicians in place that can put some new laws on the book, because the current Republicans and Trumpism has gutted affirmative action, the bills, the laws that would take care of us. And we've got to start anew with voting, and we got to start a different way of protesting. And the way we protest is we start a culture of kids and adults. We don't buy NFL paraphernalia. We don't buy any paraphernalia unless it's sanctioned by our respective HBCUs. And we approach some of these big name ball players like Barkley, who's always been outspoken, but who's really on a tear, and ask them to say, "Hey man, speak up for us. Take your endowment money out of Auburn, and say, hey, listen, if you don't do better, I'm just going to divide it up into HBCUs." And we start getting professional athletes to do the same thing. And again, we financially boycott all the way from the top down. We try to do all we can to educate kids to come to HBCUs, like I say. And then on the HBCU campuses, we got to cut this stuff out of mooching, people trying to get in the games free, people not paying alumni dues. We got to change the whole model around. And I really appreciate y'all. I hate to be long-winded, but I know how painful this is, man, because I'm sitting here right now. I got hired because of affirmative action, but I was the best. Well, let's put it this way. Affirmative action said, go out and get the best you could. I was one of the best in the criminal justice field. And discrimination is the same type of discrimination from the time I walked in the door right now. We're sitting up right now, me and a few other guys waiting on the judge to pay us. I think I'm due $130,000. Some other guys are due as much as $250 from promotion discrimination. But you all got to keep pounding at it that way, and we got to again, man. And I hate we got to vote. We got to vote, and because we can't change anything until we get the political might. Because you go to Washington right now, you know, your senators are just going to say, "Hey, man, I feel for you," but we just don't have enough. We don't have enough people that's sensitive to diversity and whatnot to put laws on the books. So for that, you know, I enjoy you all. I'm going to be praying for all the coaches because I know how painful this is, man. This is painful for me to just sit here and listen to you all talk about it. But I've been down that road from 1985 to the time 84 to the time I left my job as a federal agent for the federal government. I know exactly what y'all talk about. So thank you and keep pushing.
All right. Thank you for your call, caller. Appreciate it.
Rocky, let me say something about that caller. And this is what we're talking about. And this caller understands that law enforcement was one of the hardest things to penetrate as Black people. And while he said he got hired because of affirmative action, he got hired because he was qualified. And what happened before, they would not hire him. So they had to put in affirmative action. So a person that was qualified like him, that probably scored higher than anybody on the test, had better grades than anybody else, and then still, as we know, got underpaid for 30 plus years. 30 plus years. which I can show you over and over again. So his story is a story that I have seen in any job that you want to see. So the fact that he understands that, because you think about it, he went to college. They tell you go to school, do what you're supposed to do, get good grades. He goes. He went to Central, great school, created by a civil rights activist in 1910. He goes and gets a job, and you know what they do? Because the color of his skin, they underpay him. While his counterpart is getting 2 times, 3 times more. Not counting the promotion that he probably did not get, which would have even more money. So this is the reason why these conversations resonate with people. And for people that, like I said, grew up with those people in the civil rights movement, things like that, I understand it. I understand his pain, but I'm proud of the fact that he said, hey, listen, I still did this, still achieved. And that's why I think we have to understand, you know, to his point, we push stuff away. But it requires, to what Coach is saying, sometimes people got to make the hard choices. And we just refuse to make the sacrifice now. Because there was sacrifice in the 50s and 60s. I don't think people really understand the sacrifice of my mother who had to go to the bathroom on the side of the road. If I tell you all to do that now, you look at it like I'm crazy. Yeah. They fought for that, so you don't have to do that anymore. So these are things that we have to sit back and understand, that if we want equal access, we want equal rights, we're all going to have to come to the point and say we're going to have to sacrifice something. And that's where it comes in at.
Well, the thing is, we got to read and we got to be educated on what's going on. Do you understand that $45,000, $50,000 is the average salary of a black family compared to $74,000, $75,000 of a white family? And we don't want to get into all that and all athletics and get out of our realm of what we're talking about. But we don't even understand that, Coach. We don't even understand the big disparity in that. All we see is what's on social media. But I get tired of watching on Sundays and on Saturdays, and I'm looking at the sideline, and I'm looking at the football field, and I'm seeing all these great players making plays that look like me. And I look on the sideline, and all the ones who's running the strings on them plays look like the other guy. I'm not mad at them, though, Rocky. Campbell, I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at us. Us. You know what I'm saying? It's about us.
Hey, we got a caller, guy. We got a caller. Caller, what's your name and where you calling from?
Hey, this is Roy Gillis from Waco, Texas.
Hey, man, this is guys, y'all. Hey, this is Rod here. This is not only my good friend, but this is also my business partner in 254 Podcast Studios, and also Magic 94.5. So go ahead, Rod.
Hey, man, y'all hitting on a very good and insightful conversation, and definitely.
And PV grad. My
name is Danny Wilson, and I won $500 on the lunch break with AJ Jones.
BS3 Network. Changing the way you watch TV.